parents are the place, the makom, the place that is always safe, and the children should know that if anyone tells you, particularly, you shouldn't tell your parents, that's a warning sign to go tell your parents. You know, the parents are going to be the place where the children feel the absolute safety. But as Ronald Reagan used to say, you know, trust but verify. You know, it doesn't matter what somebody looks like, how they present, what their job is, what their title is, and so on. You know, let me just share with you, is that, you know, the saying goes, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Let me share with you a personal experience. There's a guy in my neighborhood who's a little touchy-feely. And I have one of my sons was in shul, and he came over and gave him a big hug. So, very chashuv yid, another neighbor, sees this, he happens to be a dayan, and he says, I'm going to whack you in the head, or put you through the window, if you ever do that again. And this guy says, the Rebbes give hugs. And he goes, you're not a Rebbe. And anyway, so he calls me up and he says, tell your son to stay away from so-and-so. And I said, I appreciate the call, but I will do no such thing. He said, maybe you didn't hear me. I said, let me tell you something. If I tell my son to stay away from so-and-so, I've taught him zero about boundaries. I've taught him zero about how to navigate the space when someone makes you uncomfortable. I've taught him zero about how to deal with somebody who is going to breach boundaries and how to respond. To the contrary, I sat my son down and I asked him, you know, tell me what unfolded. And I said, did you feel uncomfortable when he went over? And he said, yeah. And I said, so why didn't you put up your hand and say, no, thank you? And he's, you know, one of those very sweet Adel kids, takes after his wife, or my wife, no, his wife. Yeah, there's a big problem there, Lieberman. And he said, you know, he didn't want to offend him. So then we walked through exactly how you deal, what you say, what you do, and it was a perfect opportunity with someone who he's going to come into space with, and we worked out. I said, do you feel comfortable? And he waves to you, not wave, this and that. And we worked through the entire thing because, unfortunately, that is not going to be the only person that ever makes them feel uncomfortable. But this will be the first person who'll learn on how to deal with that type of situation. So I do think arming our kids with the ability to be able to, rather than simply just shut them down and say, stay away from so-and-so, don't do this. Of course, it's pikuach nefesh, or somebody is, you know, is in imminent danger, be smart. But if you can educate your child and help them to recognize that there's not only physical boundaries, but emotional boundaries. And when somebody pierces that and somebody makes us uncomfortable in any way, whether it's their intention to or not, that is our opportunity to go ahead and to ask ourselves what's going on here. And then to speak to their parents and to speak it over about the best way to navigate that space. And it was such an amazing experience for my son because it empowered him. I didn't tell him to cower. I didn't tell him to run when he sees this person. I didn't tell him to go around the back so he sees whatever. Now he can walk, see him. If he chooses to ignore him, fine. Chooses to wave this and that. Guy gets too close. This doesn't work for me. And that's empowering. So I think educating our children, but also giving them the proper skills to be able to navigate those boundaries is undeniably valuable.